Thanks, Griselda. Something different now. Tonight we're looking at the state of law degrees in South Africa. A review panel looking at LLB degrees has recommended an extension of that degree program from 4 years to 6 years. So if you're a youngster thinking about law, it may take you longer in future to get there. The review commenced years ago after an agreement between the SA Law Deans Association and the Council on Higher Education. At the time, there were concerns being expressed about the perceived poor quality of law graduates. Well, to discuss, we're joined in studio by Patrick Kadima, who's the chair of the Wits University chapter of the Black Lawyers Association, and on the phone, the president of the Law Society of South Africa, Mvuso Notyesi. Let me start with you, Mvuso. Are students getting LLBs, but they're coming out wholly unprepared to practice law?
Thank you very much, and let me take this opportunity and greet the listeners and the viewers. Firstly, the whole question of the training in the law degree has to be balanced in terms of the theoretical understanding of the law as well as the practical understanding of that theory and how one applies that theory. Now there is a disjuncture currently. We find out that in terms of the university training, there is too much of theoretical work rather than the practical work. And it is the very reason why we find out that the number of graduates that come from the university, they are lacking in terms of the practical exposure to the practice of law. And that has been our serious concern, which was raised up in the conference that we organized in 2013 to discuss about the quality and the standards that are offered by our universities, and the need to review the curriculum and align with the practical the practical impact of law to the students and the enhancement of their ability to understand the practice of law.
All right, it's not a great line, but I think I get the gist of what you're saying, and that agrees with the recommendations of this report. It says that law students are not exposed to law in action or live cases. Patrick, let me come to you. Firstly, are you a law student at the moment?
Yes, I am a law student.
What year are you in?
Final year law student.
And what's your experience been?
My experience has been, at Wits, I can speak about Wits, is that we have had a blend between theoretical teaching and also practical legal studies. We have a module called the Practical Legal Studies, which is a year module, unlike at some other universities. And what we do is we are allocated to certain supervisors, which are professors and practicing attorneys who are based at the law clinic. And we see clients on certain days. For example, we have family unit that sees clients on Mondays. So clients come in from different parts of Johannesburg and so on and so forth, and we sit with them. We start the matter as students from the beginning. We open a file, we sit with them, we write a first statement, we go out, we see the supervisor, we consult with the supervisor if indeed we should open a case or a file for this particular client. So for me, it has been an experience of having to have the theory part in me, and also being able to appreciate the practicality, the practical side of law. So you're dealing with live cases. The concern of this review committee was that there was not enough of that, but I guess you represent Wits. Not all universities are doing that. How would you describe, I mean, you've looked at this report. It'll affect your members in future. Before we look at the recommendations, how would you describe the state of the LLB degree in South Africa? There's a serious issue, and we should not deny that. And for example, there's this perception, and there's a legal culture at law schools that you need to think like a lawyer, and you need to start that you can. They start putting in your mindset that that view that you can only be a private lawyer, a private advocate, and so on and so forth. They do not show the students or my colleagues different sides of the law, that you can use your law career to become an academic, for example. And there's a problem with, there's a lack of academia, black academics in the law faculties around the school. And there was a report like that, I think, a few weeks back, with one major newspaper reporting that, I don't know if there were about only 2 South African academics, full professors at universities, at law schools around the country. Yeah. So there's a serious issue. And I think universities, not particularly only the top universities, but also universities, previously disadvantaged universities, historical black universities, they need to, I think, start exposing their students to the practicalities of the law, seeing clients, live clients, and being able to consult with them.
Do you support this move to change the LLB degree from 4 years to 6 years?
No, I don't.
Why?
There's a problem with funding. Now, when you move the LLB degree from 4 years to 6 years, who is able to pay for the fees? Because there are some students we know that go hungry on campus, who are not able to study. But then when the Council of Higher Education...
If they're medical students, there are some degrees that require years and years because it needs a certain output at the end.
No, true. But with the law degree, we need to also look at something here. We are trying to transform the legal sector at the same time, and therefore increasing it from 4 to 6 years, students will not be able to pay, and it's already a problem already with us who started with a BA, who went to do a BA degree, then came to do an LLB. Adding years, it's also money, accommodation. We understand. You go to universities and tell them, are there no scholarships or bursaries? They tell you no, there's no money. There is no money. Government hasn't given money. We are strained for money. Yeah. So such reasons. So I think increasing it will be too problematic. I think schools just need to reform the curriculum and make sure that in those 4 years that students are there, they are able to grasp the content of the law curriculum.
All right, let's try Mvuso Notyesi again on the line, President of the Law Society of South Africa. It wasn't a great line, but I'd like to hear your view as well. Does the Law Society support an extension of the LLB from 4 years to 6 years?
Firstly, our viewpoint is that the whole issue is not about the number of years, say 3 years or 2 years or 5 years. The whole issue needs the proper review of the curriculum, and make sure that the content of the LLB is such that it can equip those who will be practicing law, those who will be academics. But if you look onto this report, it has some, there are positive and negative that comes out of this report. Essentially because in the draft of that report and the research that was conducted, the major stakeholders were not consulted, like the Law Society itself. It was not part of the consultation. It was done by the academics themselves, who have little exposure, even themselves, to the practice of law. I understand one of the panelists want to suggest that, look, in their university, there are some professors who expose them to the practice of law. That is not a resolution to the problem. We need the whole curriculum to be reviewed and aligned so that the students are better equipped at the time when they come to practice of law.
And do you think the curriculum can be beefed up so that after 4 years, law students are ready?
Look, as I'm saying is that the 4 year, one of the things that we have to look at, what is done in that 4 year period. That's the starting point. I was doing I did BProc before I before I did my LLB as a junior degree. But in that BProc, there were some irrelevant courses like Latin, which is not spoken anywhere in the world. There was a lot of time dedicated in the teaching of the Roman law and some other laws, which are totally irrelevant. But now, if we review the curriculum, remember, currently, the supreme law of the country is the Constitution. You have to build the understanding and the capacity of the students in relation to that. Bring in a training on numerical subjects, humanities, and bring that together so as to enable the student to understand. I don't think that the solutions of 4 years or the solutions that are proposed are a direct solution to the real issue that confront our training of the law students.
Mvuso, I'll ask you one more question and then let you go because it's not a great line. So you said you weren't consulted, and right now these are recommendations. I don't know how they will be implemented, although this review was ordered by the Law Deans Association, the Council on Higher Education. Will you try and make representations or speak to these academics? What will you try and do now?
Yes, what in fact, in 2013, that's what I was trying to explain. In 2013, we called for a conference on the LLB degree, where we invited all the stakeholders, which include the deans, the Department of Education, the academics, and the lawyers, where we must agree first on the content, on the actual training that is required for the law students. And once you agree with that and we embrace a national standard, you can't have Wits University, Pretoria University, or whatever university doing its own thing. You must have a national quality assurance of the standard across. And once we do that, we are able now to offer an appropriate training to the students. That is what we have been saying. We still believe now that with this report, we have to convene now all the stakeholders, get together and develop a standard that will be acceptable across. Yeah. We must agree on the curricula that at least must form the core of the LLB training.
Yeah, there was some re-accreditation of universities required, but it sounds like even this finding as well, that there's differences across the universities. Patrick, coming to you, the Black Lawyers Association, do you know if it wants to give input and maybe be part of this, getting stakeholders together before there's a change based on just this report?
Yes, what I want to say first of all is in 2013 when they held this summit, they said there were students involved, and that's true. But as they were doing this report, they never approached us when they came to the universities to assess universities, as student councils, as law bodies, law student chapters, to come and tell us, we're assessing your universities. Are there issues are you facing? Are there any curriculum changes are you suggesting that you're suggesting to us that we should put in our report? That never happened. Mm-hmm. And that's the issue, because, and I think that's what's showing the elitist feature in academia that's happening in the law faculty, that it's only done between academics and they come and assess and they leave without seeing students and asking students if this is fine. I just want to also mention something, that if students are not taught, they are taught to memorize, and that's a big issue. They are taught to memorize the law, and that is wrong. We need to start being taught how to critique the law, how to differ with probably a court judgment and write your own report. And that's what the report, the Council of Higher Education report was talking about. The students cannot analyze, cannot critically assess different reports. For example, the Caster Semenya case, when she was appealing and when the IAF took it to the Court of Arbitration for Sports. One law student should be able to write probably an opinion article or an article and try to write it through a third world approach to international law, which is a critical legal studies school of thought.
Well, I can tell you in media that would be welcomed, people who've done the theory and then commentate as well. I have scope for one last question, and you raised something, that the faculties are not racially representative. You agree with the report on that. And tell me more. I mean, as a black law student, are you being encouraged only to go into the private sector? Is it a matter of salaries? Are you interested in an academic career?
I'm interested in an academic career. I'm interested in a public interest law career. But the problem is that at law schools, you have certain lecturers who only talk about private sector. Putting that,
Are they not trying to help you make more money?
I I don't think it's about money. It's about passion. And the moment you try to kill the passion, and that's why we have a problem with, that's why we have few academics. It's because people are running for these big four firms and saying, no, we must enter there. They forget that there's the National Public Prosecution. They forget that there is public interest law groups like SERI, like the Center for Applied Legal Studies, like the Legal Resource Center, that they can go and hone their skills and become great lawyers.
All right. Well, we appreciate the insights. Thank you very much, Patrick Kadima, the chairman of the Wits University chapter of the Black Lawyers Association. And on the line, we had the president of the Law Society of South Africa, Mvuso Notyesi, and neither are right now in full support of this review and this report saying that LLB should be extended from 4 years to 6.